Hello, everyone. I am Josue Crimz Rojano, and with me is Kyle Pooka Sucevich, and we are here in the finals of Philadelphia Regionals. On the left, you've got Gino Lombardi, and on the right, Ryan Sabelhaus.
These two guys are extremely good players. Gino, of course, we all know who this guy is. He is 2008 national champion here in the U.S., followed up with a third place at Worlds. He has an incredible track record. Another finals at regionals is just going to add to that. And Ryan is a great player in his own right. You hear about his brother Kyle a lot, but Ryan recently has been the one with a lot more success. He's qualified for Worlds quite a bit. He's won some pretty big tournaments, and I am excited to watch this matchup play out.
You know, Kyle, we should actually make you like the official Pokemon TCG historian. I'm serious. You have an uncanny memory for way more Pokemon TCG moments than anybody else I've ever met. But that's neither here nor there because the game has started, and it started off extremely well for Ryan. Oh my goodness.
A double dark patch turn one.
Yeah, this is turn one, man. The Sableye actually has an energy attached as well, so if he has the energy switch, which I'm sure he doesn't right now, then he could actually start Night Spearing on the very first turn. That's mythical, dude.
Yeah, I've only seen it happen once in this format, but it can happen. It just takes a hand like that with an energy switch. But yeah, I mean, if you're Gino, you are just terrified of this thing because, as we saw in the previous rounds, I do not think Gino plays Eviolite, which means if Ryan can just get a Night Spear before Gino can actually power up a Terrakion EX, he's going to get hit for 90, and then what does he do from there? Attach and hit for 100? Then he just gets knocked out, and he's got no energy on board. So this is looking ugly.
Yeah, and also the fact that he just used a Professor Juniper without really playing anything other than a meaningless catcher makes you wonder if he actually had to discard any really relevant cards. We see a Roserade in the discard pile right now, and, well, I hope it's a Roserade and not a Roselia, because otherwise I'll look silly.
That's a Roserade.
Good. And we see an Ultra Ball out of him, discarding his second Pokemon catcher. These little quirks, I hate to say this, but like these little quirks, they really like affect the end of every game. It seems where you're forced to discard things with Junipers, you're forced to discard things with Ultra Balls, and if the game goes long, which usually it does, then I mean you're missing your catchers, you're missing so many things, and we see a switch out of Gino activating his Stunfisk.
Yeah, he will be able to use Muddy Water turn one here, which is okay. It's going to at least put some damage on Ryan's board. This is actually probably the best thing he could have hoped for. Now he can just kind of put a little pressure on, hit for 40, and then next turn he'll want to get a regular Terrakion into play, drop an energy on that, and then say, you know what, if you want to knock out my Stunfisk, then I'm just going to retaliate you. So this was really the best situation he could have, considering Ryan's incredible turn one start, and he confused Gino's Terrakion EX.
Yeah, I know I mentioned that it was a meaningless Pokemon catcher at the beginning of the game, but I'd like to take that back now. Yeah, I didn't actually anticipate a Stunfisk attacking on turn one.
Yeah, well, this is probably the matchup where your catchers don't matter that much. You're pretty much always going to be attacking the active just because it's normally going to be a Darkrai. You might need one or two catchers at the end of the game to just kind of pick off a weakened Darkrai or one that's trying to power itself up at the end, but for the most part, I don't think throwing away catchers in this matchup is going to hurt that much.
No, absolutely not. I do agree with you there. We see a Night Spear right away on turn two from Ryan. Ryan has to be feeling really good about it, even though he just got a lot of mud thrown in his face last turn. Mm-hmm. We see a Fighting Energy for Gino, and he does have a supporter. I believe that's an N.
I think so.
Okay.
Actually, that's a Bianca, sorry.
Okay. Well, either way, it's a Bianca, which means that he's going to be able to draw some good cards right now and hopefully get himself into a reasonable position. Your opponent just Night Speared you on turn two going first, so you can't be feeling too good about this game, but let's see if he can do something about it. He decides to attach the energy to the...
It is an N, sorry.
Okay, good. So he plays the N, going to get a fresh hand of 6 either way, and he decided to attach the energy to his active Stunfisk. What do you think about that play?
Not a big fan of that play. He's got 90 on his Stunfisk already, so I don't know what his end goal is with this play. I just wanted to point out that the Eviolite for Ryan was actually a very big card to draw because if he didn't have that, Gino would have been able to attach to his bench Terrakion EX and then just Muddy Water for another 40. That would hit the Darkrai up to 80, leaving it with 100 left, and then Terrakion EX could just Rock Tumble for a knockout. But with that Eviolite, that messes up all the math, and now that Darkrai is going to survive.
Yeah, absolutely right. So we see that we see the end off of Gino, and I wonder if he's really gonna have anything else. I'd like to see him actually maybe play another Roselia here or something. Really kind of slowly progress his board state because as it stands, it's very vulnerable.
Yeah, looks like he's just getting ready to rumble, and that's not going to be good in this situation. He's going to be able to hit Darkrai for 60, but the problem is, I think Gino might have been thinking, all right, I'll just catch up Sableye and rumble it, and then kind of trap it there, give myself a turn to attach energy. But Sableye can do 10 and knock out a Stunfisk, so he doesn't really have many options.
Yeah, like we mentioned earlier, I really would have liked to see him attach the energy to his benched Pokemon. Really, he's going to be left with no energy in play after his next turn. So much damage on the field still, even after getting his Stunfisk knocked out. It's just not a pretty place to be in, you know?
Yeah, now he's in a bad spot, but not a horrible one. He can rumble the active for 60, and then if he gets a Tool Scrapper next turn and a double colorless, he can actually X-Ball the Darkrai for a knockout. So Ryan's going to want to get another Darkrai powered up relatively quickly if he wants to feel safe about his position.
Yeah, and you are ever the optimist. You always try to see the positive side of things. But I'll tell you what, Roserade actually really helps this optimism out. He probably only plays one Tool Scrapper, but hey, you know what? Plays a couple of Roselias and he plays or Roserades, I'm sorry, and he plays 4 Ultra Ball, which means that it's not even all that unfathomable for him to actually pull off what you actually just mentioned. There's always the chance that some of these things are prized and so forth, but Roserade really helps him get out of the situations like this one specifically.
Hey man, I've seen a lot of crazy things in my day, so I do not rule anything out anymore. And we see the third Dark Patch come down for Ryan, and then he's going to N as well. So if he gets an energy attachment too, he'll be able to have another Darkrai powered up for next turn. And he puts down a Dark Claw, which will actually open up quite a few things for him. I believe there's 40 on that bench Terrakion EX already. So if he Night Spears the active and then hits the Terrakion EX for 30, then it's just got 110 left, which means he can Dark Claw Night Spear for 110, get another knockout there. So he is setting up his board very nicely.
Yeah, funny how that math turns out. Interestingly, that's exactly what makes Ryan such a good player. He's thinking a couple turns ahead. He's setting up a situation where he can actually get this one-hit KO on this Terrakion EX, which is actually pretty hard to do. Yeah. Granted, it did eat a little bit of damage earlier, but still, that's exactly what you're trying to do, and that Dark Claw is really going to put him in a good position, and I really want to see a Tool Scrapper out of Gino now.
Yeah, the other thing, if he's got a catcher, which, go figure, he does, this is going to be a big move. He can catcher up Mewtwo, hit it for 90, and then still knock out Stunfisk with Night Spear. So this is basically just putting more damage on Gino's board, thanks to everyone's favorite card, Pokemon Catcher.
Yeah. There's the Pokemon Catcher, and then there's the combination of Night Spear being an insane attack. The ability to just, wreck your opponent's board in a matter of a couple of turns is just insane. And Pokemon Catcher and Darkrai seem to be just made for each other, it seems. I don't know, man. It's really brutal.
Yeah, now Gino has an Ultra Ball, so he can search for the Roserade here, which I'm not sure which one he would search for. Either the Double Colorless or the Tool Scrapper. He does have a plus power in hand, so I guess he's just going to have to figure out which one he wants to get. If Roserade isn't prized, he's discarded one of them already. If he only plays 2 and one's prized, he actually doesn't even have that option anymore.
Oh, buddy. That would actually be really bad for him, obviously. I thought I saw a green Pokemon, but obviously that could easily be a Roselia or something. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. The fact that Roserade, he relies so much on Roserade by playing only one of copies of all of these cards really does make it really difficult for him when he can't get a Roserade into play. Kind of a downside to it, but that doesn't really happen very often. However, there is one thing that I really want to mention, and that's the fact that we've mentioned in the top forecast that Gino's deck is actually very weak against crushing hammers and Sableyes and whatnot.
Hmm.
And it seems to me like that's what Ryan's really focusing on himself. That's what Ryan's deck loves to do. So does this mean just like a really big inherent advantage for Ryan, or do you think it's kind of a coin flip matchup, or what?
Well, if he can pull off those crushing hammers, he's gonna be at an advantage. But if you can pull off a turn 2 Night Spear, I think you take that. So he's got plenty of options to take a lead on Gino, which he did in this game. I really would favor Ryan in this matchup just because of the crushing hammers, but you never know what could happen in these games. This is really an unforgiving matchup where whoever gets the slow start is really going to have a tough time coming back, but who knows?
There's that Roserade. So he actually Ultra Balled for a Pokemon that wasn't Roserade, and that grass Pokemon that I saw in the deck was actually the infamous Le Parfum. So we're gonna see if he's gonna. Oh, it looks like he's switching or searching for a switch, right?
Yeah, looks like it. He's already played a plus power, so if he has a second one or a tool scrapper, he can actually muddy water for a knockout, maybe. I guess that's his option here. He doesn't really have anything else to work with. Maybe he doesn't have tool scrapper in the deck.
Yeah, that's always a possibility. We saw him look through his deck pretty frantically, so maybe that's what happened. Is he didn't have the tool or the card that he wanted to search for with Le Parfum in, so he just decided to search for Stunfisk instead.
Yeah, I don't
That
remember whether or not Gino actually plays tool scrapper. I know he plays a high amount of plus powers. So if he doesn't play it at all, this is where Eviolite is really worth its weight in gold. But otherwise, I don't know.
Yeah, if he doesn't get a knockout here, he really is going to be pretty far behind. I would like to see a knockout here to make this game competitive, but obviously that's not the end of the world, and it's only one turn.
Yeah, the problem with this is he's never going to be able to get more than one energy on board. I think he's realizing this too, because that Dark Claw on the Darkrai is going to let Ryan just Night Spear for 110. And once again, Gino's going to be on a board with no energy. So he decides to Muddy Water for 60 with thanks to the plus power. And here comes a Crushing Hammer. It's going to be a heads.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal. That's going to leave him with 0 energy in play and a Stunfisk that has 90 damage on it.
Yeah, now that's got to be because either Ryan is a Juniper or a catcher. If he doesn't have either one of those, then, alright, there's the catcher. He would have just knocked out the active if that were the case. And, this is getting out of hand very quickly. We're going to see him also play a Juniper, but he's going to be able to knock out Mewtwo for 2 prizes. He's going to set up the Terrakion EX for a knockout with the Dark Claw. And you can just see Ryan's just planning out the game. I can win in 3 Night Spears if I draw enough catchers to pull this off.
Yes, exactly. That Pokemon catcher was very nice for him. It got him a couple more prizes. It set up the Terrakion EX to be within a one-hit KO of the bench Darkrai. And now do you see a win for Gino that doesn't include Tool Scrapper?
No, I mean, this is just tough even if he has Tool Scrapper. I mean, he has 0 energy in play. And this is kind of the problem with these straight Terrakion Mewtwo decks. If you can't build enough momentum up early on, and, you miss an energy drop here or there, or your opponent happens to get a turn 2 Night Spear and just knocks you out before you can build up enough energy, you really can't recover from it. There's nothing that allows you to catch up in the energy race. And that's just the situation we're seeing right here.
I wish I could get more excited about this game. I wish I could really, speak with energy about, oh, you know what, he can do this, he can do that, etc. He can get himself right back into this game. But the truth is, I hate this type of situation. I hate when somebody's getting beat down so badly that really he's just in a position where he's just sitting there, honestly, just letting his opponent take prize after prize and trying to get back into the game, but it's just not going to happen. And he's going to inevitably try because that's what we do as gamers. But at the end of the day, he's just not going to have what it takes, and he's going to lose this game because his opponent got so far ahead. I can't stress this enough. This is it happens so often. And yes, there's situations in which every once in a while they do pull it off, but the truth is they just don't pull it off often enough.
Well, he will be able to switch to his Mewtwo this turn if he wants to. He can then X-Ball. I think it's going to be 20 short of a knockout because of the Eviolite. But he can at least start doing heavy damage to these Darkrai's. And if he can do that a couple times, maybe he just ends Ryan down, to like one card, and from there he just can't power up a third Darkrai, and we could see Gino make a bit of a comeback. It's a little bit of a stretch, but I guess catching Sableye is probably not the way to go about it. I think he would be better off just softening up Darkrai's here, but I think he's probably searching for his Tool Scrapper from the prize.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense here. But really, like I said, even the Tool Scrapper at this point in time is it's going to do something, obviously, but it's just not going to do enough. I just don't see him being able to do anything with only having a dark double color synergy in play, and his opponent just potions, getting himself out of knockout range there. And jeez, this is just brutal. Crushing Hammer here at heads would just leave him with 0 energy in play, but luckily it's a tails.
Potion, I mean, this is one of the underrated cards in the game. Just a little thing like healing 30 damage can completely change the outcome of any match, and especially when you're talking about knocking things out in 2 hits. And all of a sudden, this Mewtwo is not going to be able to do much.
Yeah. Potion is actually extremely strong in a field full of Darkrai's. When your opponent's relying on things like Night Spear to be able to lead to knockouts, the last thing they want to see is you negate the damage of the Night Spear. So Potion is a very strong card, and it does see some play. It sees a lot more play than it did 12, 13 years ago. That's for sure. And I don't think it's a bad card at all.
I'll have you know I played Potion when it only removed 2 damage counters.
I'll have you know you've been playing Potion your entire life, actually, and Strange Charm as well, apparently.
These little cards, they end up impacting the game. You always say football is a game of inches, but Pokemon is a game where 10 damage can decide everything. So these little cards like that plus power, or a potion, they can be the difference between a win and a loss. And we're just starting to see the impact of these cards a little more recently.
We just saw Bianca for 3. He's grasping at straws here, trying to find a way out of this. He's now going to play an Ultra Ball, discarding a Roselia, and he's tanking on the second discard. So this next discard is going to be pretty important for him. Looks like he wants to discard an energy, but doesn't know. It's actually a Terrakion. So he discards a Terrakion to go with his Roselia, and he's Ultra Balling for, I don't know, he's got like an 8-card deck here. Yeah. That's a Terrakion.
The problem is he just doesn't have anything to fall back on. He does not have any Pokemon to even have energy on, like a Terrakion. If you had like a Terrakion with an energy weighting, this would be maybe a manageable situation. But now, once again, we're going to see his only Pokemon with energy get knocked out, and he's going to lose the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan's been doing such a great job of just limiting his opponent's options the entire game. His opponent starts, either trying to set up a benched attacker or something, and he either gets Crushing Hammers or Catchers or something to be able to truly limit his opponent's options. And, I mean, now look at Gino. Unfortunately for him, this legend of the game is forced to just tickle away at Darkrai's and hope that it's enough.
Yeah, I do think he made a bit of a mistake there when he catchered out the Sableye and attacked with Mewtwo. He would have left himself with some sort of option if he had just softened up these Darkrai's with X-Ball. But the way things are now, there's no energy on board. Ryan has got to be feeling good, and it's just one more Night Spear and the game's over, and I don't think Gino has anything to even stop this last Night Spear.
Well, when Pooka the Optimist says there's no chance, there's no chance. And even though I've been riding Gino off for the last few turns, the truth is it did look bleak, but there was always that little bit of hope. And here's a little bit of hope again. I mean, a Mewtwo Darkness, or double colorless, and now a plus power. That's 50 damage plus. I believe the Darkrai has another 3 energies on it. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it can definitely deal some damage to the Darkrai, and his opponent's gonna be forced to have some sort of a Pokemon catcher.
Yeah, and Ryan was actually holding on to one. He made a tough decision last turn. He has a Juniper and a catcher in his hand. He wanted to Juniper to power up his Darkrai, but he played kind of the smarter route, saying, all right, there's no way I'm getting knocked out, so I am just going to hold on to this catcher. If Gino knocks me out, then, geez, I mean, I don't even know what to think. So, yep, that's going to wrap it up. He shows Gino the catcher, and Ryan will take a quick 1-game lead.
Yeah, Ryan did flash the catcher. That was enough to make Gino. I mean, Gino was obviously already losing there, but Gino now does scoop up his cards, and they're going to be going to game two. Gino has to now win 2 games in a row against the deck that he basically another version of the deck that he just beat in the top four. So you know that Gino's well versed in this matchup now, and Gino just knows that he has to avoid things like the crushing hammerlock. He has to avoid certain situations where he's just going to be left with few options. He wants to keep as many options as possible on his side of the board, wants to be able to keep constantly attacking. Playing things like Mewtwo, double colorless, and switch all in the same turn is so difficult to do that's the last thing he wants to force himself to rely on. So he wants to have energy in play, and really I'm sure that's what Gino's going to be trying to do here.
Well, yeah, and he wants to avoid getting Night Spirit on the second turn. That always helps. But beyond that, yeah, he just needs to get in a situation where he has energy on multiple attackers, or if he can ever get 3 onto a Terrakion EX, that's going to be his way to win. He just couldn't get anything going there. There's not much you can do about a turn 2 Night Spear in this format. It's just, once you see that, you're just kind of like, well, this was fun. But looks like all my Pokemon are going down.
Yeah, and it was a turn 2 Night Spirit going first to top it all off.
Yeah.
So now we're going to see Gino get to go first, which is actually really important. Even if his opponent does get that dreaded turn 2 Night Spirit, he's not going to be out of the game like he was this time. There's a huge difference between seeing your opponent get a turn 2 Night Spirit on, before you've had a second turn, and there's another difference when you've already got 2 energies in play, and you've already got kind of the board set up so like it's not going to completely destroy you. So. I would like to see, or I really expect to see Gino be very competitive in this matchup, and regardless of what kind of a start Ryan has, as long as Gino has a reasonable one, this should be a competitive game.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what the matchup is, no matter what the situation is, whenever you got N in the game, they're really not over until you can clearly see on the board that everything's going down. So anything can happen when you just end someone down to like 1, 2, 3 cards, and this matchup is no different. We have some fragile Pokemon on Ryan's side, where if Gino ever gets set up, he'll be able to win. If he can just end late in the game and get off a couple energy attachments without getting knocked out, there's always a way for him to come back.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that Ryan offers the handshake so often. Yeah, he's a very classy player. Offers the handshake at the end of every game, at the beginning of every game apparently. So they both understand really what's on the line here, and it seems like Gino, who obviously has a ton of records to his name, has been here before, and they're both just really ready, and we're gonna see a good game. Now we see an Ultra Ball out of Gino, discarding a Bianca and I believe a catcher.
Yeah.
So that finds and now that finds him what is that, a Terrakion EX?
He already had that in hand. He got a Roselia with the Ultra Ball.
Yeah, my apologies. Roselia, and now he plays an end to really give himself a fresh new hand. Perfect.
Yeah. Interesting that Gino would decide to power up Terrakion EX instead of just going straight ahead with the Stunfisk. I'm not sure if he started with both in his hand, because he did play the Terrakion EX right away. Maybe he top decked it on his first turn, but Stunfisk is actually really good early on against these Darkrai decks if you can rumble a Darkrai and lock it in place before it gets powered up. So he's deciding to just go for the Terrakion EX instead. But maybe we could have seen something different if you went for the rumble.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I would probably prefer just to go with the Muddy Water.
Yeah, I mean, you would hit the Sableye for 20 and then threaten the 40 plus no retreat next turn.
Exactly.
So, just interesting decision making. At the same time, if he ever gets that Terrakion EX with 3 energy on it, I think he pretty much wins. So, I can't fault that decision, and we'll see what happens.
Now, how do you like this decision to attach the Eviolite onto his Sableye and a Dark Claw onto his Darkrai?
It's kind of confusing, to be honest, when you're going up against fighting Pokemon. Eviolite is your friend on Darkrai, because then you don't get knocked out immediately.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm sure that Ryan's thinking something along the lines of, well, this guy plays Le Parfum, and he plays multiple plus powers. What are the odds that the Eviolite actually does something? So I'm not exactly sure what his line of play is going to be here to really maximize the Dark Claw's extra 20 damage. But you have to think that he's going to have to use the the Dark Claw to its maximum potential to really make up for the loss of Eviolite.
Yeah, I mean, if I were in Ryan's shoes, I might consider actually just discarding the Eviolite from the Juniper so that you can junk hunt for it and then attach it to a different Darkrai.
Exactly.
But here he's just deciding to protect the greatest attacker in the game, as you say. He wants this Sableye to go the distance.
Even though Sableye is the greatest attacker in the game, trademark, you still have the ability to really bounce back after its knockout. That's the beauty of Sableye, the versatility in him. That he's a punching bag, and you don't really want to take care of the punching bag too much. It's there just to take some hits.
Uh-oh.
And
Crushing hammer time. Stop. Hammer time.
But it's a tails. How anticlimactic. Now we see a random receiver. Is he going to find a Juniper? Nope, he's going to find an N. So the N is going to shuffle both of their hands in and get them fresh ones of 6. So yeah, anyways, Sableye is a punching bag. You want to let that thing die, man. It's there to die. It's there to get one good junk hunt in, take advantage of that, and give your opponent a prize. The last thing you want to do is really take care of your Sableye and treat it like gold.
Well, I'm going to drop some knowledge on you. You ready?
Yes.
All right, so Ryan is playing the Crushing Hammers. He realizes, if I can just get 1 heads each turn and keep Gino at bay, never let him get the 3 energy in play, I'm going to be fine, because I have an Eviolite on my Sableye. Now that Rock Tumble only does 30. That makes it a 3-hit knockout, so Eviolite is coming in handy here.
That's your knowledge?
Yes,
That's
sir.
your knowledge?
We'll see what happens if he gets a Crushing Hammer. If Sableye can take 3 hits from each Terrakion EX, he's going to run Gino out of energy just by
There's
crushing
another heads. Oh, there is a heads, actually. I meant to say there's another Crushing Hammer, but instead I said...
Oh, there's the third one, buddy.
I called the future. Oh, my goodness.
And
that is 2 straight Crushing Hammers. And you know what? I'm going to tell you, Eviolite does not seem to be making a difference here. It's all about the Crushing Hammers and the fact that he just got 2 heads in a row. Gino's got to be crushed. He's got to be hurting here. And the fact that he's finding 2 Crushing... I would look for 2 Crushing Hammers myself. Ryan, do it. There you go. Ryan does get 2 Crushing Hammers, and he is in the driver's seat. Now, as long as you flip like Pram, you're good to go, my friend.
I mean, if he only had gotten 1 heads there, the Eviolite thing definitely would have come up if Gino just sat there and used Rock Tumble for 30. Really, your strategy, if your opponent gets 2 energy on board at any point with this deck, is you're just going to keep attacking with Sableye. You just want to keep using Junk Hunt to get Crushing Hammers back until your opponent runs out of energy. You don't care if he knocks out all 4 Sableyes. As long as you get rid of his energy and run him out of stuff, eventually you're going to win that battle. So if you can ever make it so that a Sableye can live 1 extra turn, that can be the difference in the game.
We see the desperation Pokemon catcher onto Darkrai. I love to call that desperation because it's so funny that you're just hoping your opponent doesn't have even a single darkness energy to really be able to retreat. But yeah, we're going to see something like that. And and it's obvious, just by the board again. I mentioned at the beginning of this game that Gino had to keep his options completely open, and Crushing Hammer does a really good job of neutralizing that strategy.
Yeah, well, Gino's playing a Juniper anyway, so, might as well go for the Hail Mary, try to get a turn where Ryan can't use Junk Hunt, but there's 1 more Crushing Hammer heads, and as long as Ryan can go 50% on these things, he's going to be able to win, I think. And Gino will never be able to really attack at any point in this game. And this is the power of Crushing Hammer plus Sableye, and this is just kind of the weakness of the straight Terrakion deck. You don't have any energy acceleration. I've seen some people play cards like Landorus just for this situation, where you can Abundant Harvest and get an energy back every turn to at least try to keep up with the Crushing Hammer stuff. But Gino doesn't have any sort of option like that, and we might be seeing one painful long game here.
Yes. Obviously, the fact that all of his Pokemon have a really high retreat cost too doesn't really help the fact that it's just going to be hard for Gino to do anything here. If he starts trying to, say Muddy Water or something, then there's an Eviolite on the Sableye. There's a Pokemon catcher now on.
That's a Tool Scrapper, sir.
Oh, my apologies. There's a Tool Scrapper discarding that Eviolite. So maybe now he does have the Muddy Water option. I'm not really sure, but either way, he's going to have to do something to really get himself some sort of a board presence here.
Yeah, all right. N was actually one thing that Gino could rely on here. Even though Ryan did get back the 2 Crushing Hammers from Junk Hunt, now he shuffles those back in his deck. So there could be a turn here where Ryan does not get to use Crushing Hammer. These are the little things you have to hope for to try to get some energy back into play.
So true. So right here, aside from actually just hoping that your opponent draws dead off the end, is there any? This is a redundant question because there obviously isn't. There's no chance for him to really do anything without energy in play. So
he played a plus power. He could switch into Mewtwo here and X-Ball. He's got a DCE as well. He can get a knockout here. So he's gonna start putting some pressure on.
You're absolutely right. I didn't see that one coming in. We do see a knockout. However, we do have another Sableye in the bench, and we have some Darkrai's also waiting. So that Mewtwo obviously not very stellar against the Darkrai, but hey, at least he got out of the lock. So that was a great play by Gino. And now it's up to the Darkrai's, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a situation where you can just kind of shift gears if you're Ryan and just say, all right, you got a Mewtwo. Big deal. I'm going to Night Spear. I've discarded a bunch of energy. You might start to miss energy drops, and if that's the case, you're not going to be able to keep up with Darkrai. So this is the beauty of Crushing Hammer with Darkrai. You can slow them down enough to the point where you should just be able to Night Spear until you win, or Darkrai is just strong enough on its own where you can win a lot of games just Night Spearing.
Yeah, the fact that there's no energy on any of the Terrakions really is going to still keep Ryan in this driver's seat. The Darkrai's or the Terrakions are going to start taking some damage, just like we see here from the Night Spear, and that's going to set up some knockouts from Pokemon catchers in the future. Not to mention the fact that we see 5 energy in play on Ryan's side and only double colorless on Gino's. And like you mentioned earlier, there is quite a few energies in Gino's discard pile. So it's just a matter of time before Gino starts really grasping for straws.
Yeah, I mean, if he can get an energy drop every single turn, he's actually got a good chance now. If Ryan cannot draw into Crushing Hammers anymore, he's going to X-Ball here for 80, which will be a perfect number to set up for a Rock Tumble knockout. So as long as Ryan doesn't top deck that Bianca that he just top decked, he shouldn't be able to get much stuff. But now we might see some Crushing Hammers out of him.
Yeah, I would remiss to say that you have to expect things like Crushing Hammers and things off of Ryan's deck. Ryan's deck has been, thin to the point where he's really got nothing but good stuff in it, and I just expect to see some good stuff off of Ryan's turns from here on out. We see a Bianca. We also saw a Max Potion really mitigating all of the damage from Mewtwo, and we see a new active Mewtwo that has full HP. So, and a Crushing Hammer onto the bench Terrakion. So
and the hammer down. That's not
back
a good
to square
situation
one,
for
man.
Gino.
Yeah, back to square one from these guys, and Gino's got to be thinking, man, come on, give me a break here. But instead, we're probably going to see an activation of the Stunfisk here, and maybe just a Muddy Water to set things up. I don't know.
Yeah, in this situation, I mean, that's got to be heartbreaking for Gino. He hit 2 energy in play at some point. They both got discarded by Crushing Hammer. He set up the best play he could for himself, getting a Terrakion with 1 energy on it, and Crushing Hammer. So, I mean, at this point, in this sort of a matchup, you have to hope that your opponent just doesn't draw things. So, I mean, that's your only real strategy at this point. But Ryan drew out of it, and he's back in the driver's seat.
Yeah, I mean, I can't stress how easy it was for Ryan to really draw out of that situation. Like I mentioned, Ryan's deck has nothing but good stuff left in it, and Gino's got a lot of energies missing from his deck. The deck advantage clearly goes to Ryan, and it was just a matter of it didn't have to be a Crushing Hammer. It could have easily been some other situation to really keep him in the driver's seat here, and the Max Potion also helped a lot. So there's a Pokemon catcher onto the Terrakion, and geez.
Yeah, and I think there's 60 on that Terrakion at this point, and we do see another Crushing Hammer. That one's Tails, though. I don't think he'll be able to actually knock this thing out this turn, but he'll set it up for a Night Spear for 30. That'll put it at 150 damage. So even if Gino gets this thing to the bench, it's going to get knocked out by the 30 from Night Spear. It's going to put Ryan at 2 prizes, and you got to think Darkrai can somehow scrounge up 2 prizes at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Ideally, what will happen here is Gino or Ryan will deal 90 damage to the active and 30 damage to the Stunfisk, and then next turn catch up the Stunfisk, and there's 3 prizes, and not only that, but there's no energy on Gino's side of the board again.
Yeah, so there's plenty of options for Ryan at this point. Gino, he's just limited by the no energy in play. There's speaking of that, there's a Crushing Hammer.
This one's almost unnecessary, but fine. Let's just do it. And he gets a heads on it. So again, 0 energy in play for Gino, and Gino's got to be frustrated once
They're
again.
never unnecessary, my friend. Anything can happen. And you can see Gino kind of throw his hand down at this point. He could have pulled off some plays with Energy Switch if that Stunfisk didn't get knocked out. So a very frustrating moment for Gino there. He realized at this point that he is pretty much done for. All of his energy just keeps getting discarded, and I don't know what he can possibly do from here.
Yeah, it is a rough matchup for him. I mean, admittedly. So it's just very unfortunate for him to have to face this in the finals. He has a really nice deck going. He's got a really nice idea with the Rose Raid, and well, there's a Rose Raid right there, really. All these things really combine to make a great deck. But the great deck's weakness is Crushing Hammer, and we're seeing it here. We've seen how many heads out of Crushing Hammer so far? Like 5, I think. It's just
a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen an unreal amount of unreal amount of Crushing Hammers out of Ryan, and that's so many energies that you just get taken out of your deck, not only out of play but out of your deck. Let's say he plays 14 energy, right? That's 5, 6 energies gone out of that, plus the energies that he's lost from knockouts and stuff. I mean, he's got to be low, very low, and how can you actually expect to take 6 prizes out of or 5 prizes from the few energies that you have left in your deck? Gino knows that it's looking bleak right now, and with good reason.
Yeah, he uses Rose Raid to grab himself a switch, so maybe he'll be able to pull off an attack this turn. We'll see what he Ultra Balls for. I think Mewtwo's probably his best bet at this point, but he's going to go for Stunfisk. I don't know how many DC he has left. Interesting, before when he used Muddy Water, he put the 20 onto Sableye. I think I would have preferred just kind of weakening another Darkrai, so that maybe he would have a shot with a Mewtwo at some point. But at this point, I mean, he can hit for 40 on the active, but that's really not getting it done at this point. He's going to Bianca for 6. Maybe if he drops down like 4+ powers, he can get a knockout, but it's really his only hope.
So he had gotten the Mewtwo. He would have gotten the DC and the switch and the plus power, which, I mean, would have been nice, but he'll have to conform with the Muddy Water here. And at least its Stunfisk still has 100 HP left, so his opponent won't be able to really knock it out this turn.
Yeah, the problem for him here is that, yeah, he can hit the active for 40, hit the Darkrai for 20, and then he gets Night Spirit and his Terrakion EX gets knocked out. We don't see any form of healing cards or damage reduction from Gino at all. So really, once damage is on his board, it's there, and any play that Ryan could ever set up with Night Spear is going to work every time. This is kind of why people run Eviolite, why they run potions and stuff like that, because, Darkrai is really good even when you got fighting Pokemon, and that's what we're seeing here.
Yeah, and it's cool to see Ryan retreat his Darkrai is obviously for free because of the ability, but it's cool to see him really retreat here and there just to set up situations where he's going to have the least risk possible and, just kind of spread the damage around. That way his opponent has to work much harder to knock out his Pokemon. Now, we did see exactly what you mentioned, which is just a knockout with the Night Spear onto his bench Terrakion EX, and that's pretty brutal.
Yeah, Gino here, he's got to be looking for an N because it's just catcher game over at this point. He's going to use Rose Raid, I think.
Yep, he absolutely is.
Maybe he can pull off a Retaliate here with the Terrakion. That could be one way to give himself a shot. But he might have to go for an N here if he's got one left, just to disrupt Ryan's hand so that he doesn't have a catcher for the win.
Yeah. Gino is thinking about his options. He's trying to find a way to really get himself back into the game, obviously, but he's trying to really make sure that his opponent can have the least amount of bounce back options afterwards. Like, say, for example,
he's going to get this Terrakion out here. He's got the Energy Switch, so he'll pull off a Retaliate, and Ryan's going to have a small window to, get a catcher here to win. So this is not quite over yet.
Let's see here. We do see a plus power off of him and a Juniper. He's going to need one more energy, I believe. Did he decide not to play the double colorless?
Yeah, he did. I think because he was just scared of Enhanced Hammer. He wants to make it as difficult as possible for Ryan to remove one of his energy, because if Ryan doesn't have a catcher and then he he doesn't remove an energy, Gino can then land crush the next Darkrai.
Yeah, that was a great play by Gino. The fact that he decided to risk it there means that he really understands what kind of a situation he's in and that he's got to take so many risks here. And I really like that out of Gino. That was a great play.
Here we go. We need a catcher to win.
Junipers, and he hits the catcher immediately.
And that game over, my friend.
That is the game. Gino stands up, dejected. Obviously, you never want to lose, especially when you're so close to actually winning this championship. And Gino, one of the legends of the game, going up against Ryan Sabelhaus, one of the great players in this game. We had a great match between the two of them. Really, they both played their hearts out. It was unfortunate that Gino did have such a poor matchup when the Crushing Hammers came into play, but you know what? That's how the game goes, and Ryan is your Philadelphia champion.
Yeah, congratulations to Ryan. He played that very, very well. It doesn't hurt when you get some heads on Crushing Hammer, but that's what his deck does. Darkrai, Crushing Hammer. It's very, very powerful. It can trump even the Pokemon it's weak to. So congratulations to Ryan for sure. Also, congratulations to Gino for another great showing. A second place at a regional is nothing to be ashamed of. I'm sure he would have liked to win, but he played his heart out. There's nothing you can do about getting all your energy removed. And I don't think he'll be too upset with this. He does get 2 buys at Nationals still. So does Ryan. But Ryan's going to go home with 120 championship points, a trip paid to the National Championship, and the all-important title of Regional Champion.
Yeah, we saw some world-class play out of both of these players throughout the tournament, really, the entire tournament. And I couldn't be happier about the gameplay displayed by both of them, and then the sportsmanship at the end of the game. Gino standing up, shaking hands with the judges and whatnot, and really, I can't ask for more. Both players played excellently. We saw this throughout the tournament, and a really great player won this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, Gino, going into this, he had to have known that this was not a great matchup. Crushing Hammer is really just dominant against his deck, but he's a competitor. He's not going to feel good about losing, but I think he'll survive. And this won't be the last we hear from the great Gino Lombardi, that's for sure.
Absolutely not. But thank you guys for joining us in the coverage of this championship. We'll be glad to bring you guys some more coverage soon, and that'll be it from us. Thank you very much.